make real connections with the people that resonate with you, like genuinely reach out of a friendship point of view and a connective point of view, not just asking for help, but really make those connections, and people will gravitate towards that.
Oh, Jessica, I am so excited to have you here. I know you and I have connected on Instagram for a while now, actually. I don't remember how we got connected, but I've loved kind of watching your journey, watching your evolution, and so excited to jump in today as we talk about a little bit of that, but also this idea of really living into yourself, like unapologetically, and being okay to break the norms, break the stereotypes, go against the grain, and just truly live into you. And so I'm super excited to talk about that. I think it's so important and so needed. Before we do that, do you want to share just a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. I am excited to be here and to connect with you as well. It's such a fun thing when we actually get to see each other and talk to each other.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Jessica Frew. I am a mom, stepmom, wife, ex-wife, and a bold action taker. That is how I always introduce myself. And I do push a little bit against the grain. I was raised and am still an active member in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so a very conservative Christian religion. And often I do not fit the norm of what that looks like. People are always like, you're a Mormon? Like what? And I love that. I take that as a compliment. Not that I'm trying to be rebellious in any way, but I believe in being myself. I think that we were created and sent here for a reason, and that is to be who we were created to be. Another reason that people often are like, now what about you? My first husband and I were married for 7 years, and he came out as gay during that time. We stayed married. Like I knew about a year into our marriage that he was gay, and we decided to stay married and work through that until he was ready to come out and could love himself for that. It was still a process after that. But we made a decision when we divorced. I mean, there was an affair and it was very hard. And I did feel like I was losing my life that I had always dreamed of. But I did not want to go into divorce and have my daughter have to have that relationship where mom drops off at school in the morning, dad picks her up because we can't see each other. I wanted her to feel loved and to know that she was the most important thing in the room, that mom and dad being in the room together did not matter. We were going to be good. And so we've created a very close relationship. I always say it's like, he's my brother now. I care about him that much. I love that much. He's very much a part of my life. Been remarried for almost 9 years now, and I have 2 stepkids. And that's been a whole nother journey of getting to know myself and understanding who I am within the reality of a second marriage. It's a lot. And my heart goes out to all of those stepmoms and women in second marriages. It's rough, but we've made it through. And I think we feel solid. We're doing good. So that's awesome. I always like it when I can say that.
Yeah.
And today, Matt and I and Steve, so my husband and my ex-husband and I actually all host a podcast together called Husband-in-Law. And we do have an Instagram as well, but that's mostly me. If you want to hear all 3 of us, you got to go to the podcast. But so we do that together and just kind of have created this life that works for us and are doing what feels right for us, for each of us. And it's been a blessing in our lives. And now we've been able to see how it's able to bless other people just by showing up authentically as who we are.
Yeah. And I think I think I saw your story, like when you were first kind of starting to share online, I don't know, a while ago, and you guys have exploded and grown so much. And it's been really beautiful to watch because I do believe that specifically for a lot of women that are listening that are in business or doing their own thing, that sometimes that like fully stepping into it and owning it when it feels against the grain, when it feels like how is this going to be received? Is this going to be received well? Is this not? Am I going to get the backlash? Like, ooh, I don't know what to do. And sometimes that's exactly what you have to do in order to reach that growth and to really, like you said, even make the impact that you are making, right? Like I've seen some of the comments and seen some of the stories, seen some of the feedback that you guys have received, and just the amount of transformation and support that people are feeling by you being unapologetic and speaking into your truth, even when I know there's probably plenty of days you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to say this, or, oh, I'm like, maybe this is too much, or this was too far, or whatever. Like we still have those moments. And yet what I love is that you do do it anyway. Like, right? You still share and show up in that way. So what do you think was it for you that really helped you get to that place, right? Where you were like, I am going to fully own and be authentic and stand in exactly what I want to say and how, because I know, I'm like, maybe that's what it is. It's like, I know how it's going to impact, and the impact that's going to have is greater than the uncomfort that I feel right now.
Yeah, I felt like I've known for years that this is something we would do. I had no idea how it would look, but I knew we were meant to share our story. And I knew that both these men that are in my life would be comfortable doing that. And I've kind of been prepping it for years. This is something that I knew I needed to share, because I just, in the little bits that I shared with friends and family and random people at the gym that I became friends with, of sharing our story and how much that impacted people not in our same situation, but just getting them thinking about their relationships and, oh my gosh, and you can show up how you want to, and it's okay. And that being said, I mean, we have had plenty of people come at us.
Yes.
This is horrible and ridiculous. And I just choose to ignore that. People are often projecting their own issues. When we are being authentic and true to who we are, people are going to project on us their own insecurities and what they're struggling with. And that's just a real part of it. And understanding that it's more about them than it is about you makes the process a little bit easier. There are still things that hit me and I'm like, ooh, that one kind of hurt. And usually that's because it's my own thing that I've struggled with or that I've already worked through, but it's like somebody, like, I feel like they know it and they just like cried it out of whatever. But then understanding that I have done my work and I am okay to share these things. And I do share from a place of, we have healed, we have moved on. A lot of things that we're dealing with right now in the present, we don't share. I mean, I personally do just because I'm pretty comfortable with it, but also things that I know that people can't, it's not going to hurt me if people come at me or say something that it might hurt for a second, but I know I'm okay enough to do that. Another thing is regarding business. If we are wanting, my business coach told me this, when we're building something, we as women are drawn to people who are polarizing. And so when we stand by what we believe, when we really honestly share what we believe, women are drawn to that. We want to, whether we fully agree or not, we are drawn to somebody who has a solid belief or has an opinion. And even if that belief changes, like, it's okay to pivot and to grow and to learn and be like, yeah, I was wrong about that. I've done that numerous times, but it's still, when you are building a business, it's kind of important to know and to speak up about hard things. I just made a post today that I'm like, whew, it doesn't get easier. It feels scary, but also I'm like, I feel I need to say this. That means somebody out there needs to hear it. And if it's one person that messages me and says, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that, that touched my heart, it was worth it. And more often than not, it's a lot more than one person.
Yeah. And I think that, it's totally true. Like I was even thinking the other day of like the people that I've been the most drawn to. And it was like, I need to be a part of your program. I need whatever cup of tea you're drinking or whatever it is. They are those women that are just like so unapologetic, like they're standing and confident. And I think that's probably the big radiating factor, right? Is like that confidence to speak up, even knowing that it may not be received the greatest, or it might be totally a different idea than what you believe, but just still that attractiveness of like them standing and owning in their confidence. Something about that just is so attractive. I know that this was not something that just like all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going to be okay with sharing and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, that it's probably been this evolution of time, right? And of stepping out and trying things and growing and learning. And like you said, I've healed from a lot of these different things. They're not going to sting quite as bad as like if I were in the moment. So what do you feel like are some of those big things that have helped you kind of get to the place right now where you're kind of like, I know this is one might be a little bit tough to share, but I'm going to share it anyway. Like, how have you what have been those big key things that have helped you get to that spot?
So honestly, the thing that is key for me is just knowing who I am and remembering who I am in those moments of people trying to call me out or whatever, just realizing this person doesn't know my whole story. First of all, a lot of these people are responding to a 30-second reel or a 15-second reel or something like that. They're seeing this tiny part of me, or even an article. They see this little part of who I am and they're responding to just that.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding that I know who I am, and that's all that really matters. And the people close to me know who I am. And that's the most important thing. I've done a lot of work, especially as being a stepmom and dealing with high conflict ex-wife on my husband's side, knowing that I don't have to defend myself ever because I know my truth. I know what's real, and people are going to see that. And if they don't, they're not my people. Like that's not who I want or need in my life. We did an article recently with the Today Show, not like a live interview, but an article with them. And this was one of the times that like I went briefly in the comments on Facebook and I was like, whoosh, like it was brutal, just brutal, and mostly attacking my ex-husband. And it broke my heart. And I just thought, you know what? Step aside. I don't have to read these. I am not going to respond. And most of them, it was obvious they didn't even read the article. They read the headline. And so I'm like, you know what? That's what you have to remind yourself of. I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm doing is done out of love for myself, for my ex-husband, for my daughter, for the people in my life. And that is ultimately all that matters to me.
Well, and I think that that's so valuable. It's like people are weird on the internet. Like, can we just say that right now?
Oh
like,
my gosh.
The amount of trolls and the comments and stuff that I see sometimes, not even on my stuff, but on other people's stuff. And I sit there and I think it doesn't like, it's not even me being attacked. And I'm sitting there being like, oh my gosh, like take a chill. Like, and yet why people feel the need and the urge to sit there and banter on the internet and fight about who knows what, like, it just blows me away. One, that you're wasting your time doing that. Like how many hours, I think it was a statistic I had heard, like people that write YouTube reviews, like nasty YouTube reviews. And there was this guy that had written like 150 reviews and they were all nasty. And so somebody did the calculations of like how much time it actually takes to write a review, blah, blah, blah. And it was like 6 months or something. And he's like, you spent 6 months of your life writing nasty reviews. Like, is that really how you want to spend your life? Right.
Yeah.
So there's that frame of mind of like, there's just weird people out there, but you are so correct. I've actually heard an author, I can't remember who it was, but she said that she never looks at the reviews on her book. Never. Yeah. Because people are just crazy mean and have, like you said, only a small glimpse of a window. And if you are living into what you know you're supposed to be doing, what you are here for, who you're supposed to speak to, who needs to hear your message, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or what anybody else has to say, because you know you're living true to who you are supposed to speak to and who you need to show up for.
My dad always reminds me if I like am getting in my head about it at all. He's like, Jessica, if you are creating these conversations, if people are saying things, then you've had an impact. Like even if you view it as a negative comment or like a banter that's negative. And I don't engage in any of that. Like it's just not my thing. I don't defend, but people will go to boot back and forth. People who do not know me on comments, and they're going back and forth. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Like who has time for this? Neither of these people know me. They don't know each other. But then my dad, like I said, he always comes back to, if you are getting people engaged in any type of conversation, then you are doing good work. Like that is what is needed, is for people to start talking. Sometimes it's ridiculous and whatever, but at least it's getting them thinking. Like they're obviously thinking about it. So I remind myself of that.
So awesome. You have a great dad in your ball court, right?
You have a good dad.
You have somebody there. And I think we haven't highlighted that, but I do think that that is a key piece too, is having that community and support of people, right? That are there, that have got your back, that, you know, no matter what anybody else out there says or does, that you have that support system. And I know there are people out there that are listening to this that probably don't feel like they have that, right?
For sure.
So what would you recommend in terms of that? Like, because that support network is huge when the world is coming at you. How do you navigate that? What would you recommend to them?
Again, first and foremost, know who you are in and of yourself. Find that knowledge, do the work to make sure you are connected to you. But then secondly, find your people. Like your people are out there, and lean into that. And I've seen, sometimes on Instagram, I've seen people just be like, I just need to hear something positive. Like, why are you following me? Like, tell me something positive. Those people are there and they're going to respond and engage. And again, even if it's just one or two people, lean into that. Acknowledge that there are people there. Find a group of women, a group of whoever that supports you, whether you're buying into that in mastermind form or in a group form or whatever, own that.
Yeah. Well, and you just kind of mentioned too, like I remember a while back, somebody had told me like that they pay to be in the room, kind of an idea, like that mentality. And I was thinking about, like, I recently just joined into another program. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I don't know if this program is really going to give me what I think it's going to look like, what I'm wanting. I'm not 100% sure if this program is going to give it to me. I said, but regardless, I'm at least going to meet the other women in the program.
Yeah.
And maybe that's all I need. Maybe that's what I'm walking away from this program with. And so I very much am in that place of like, I will pay to be in the room, like pay to be there and to pay to meet that community and have that support. There is a different level of commitment and support, I do believe, in those groups than in some of even like the free groups or following along with people on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. Like, it takes it up a notch in how you feel supported in some of those groups where you pay to be there.
Yeah. And you can find it in free groups too. If you don't have the money to pay, find what you need, lean into that, and really make real connections with the people that resonate with you. Like genuinely reach out of a friendship point of view and a connective point of view, not just asking for help, but really make those connections, and people will gravitate towards that. People will engage and be there for you in ways that you need. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes back to that same idea that you talked about at the beginning, is that authenticity, right? There's so many people that are reaching out to people on Facebook and Instagram, but it's from a pitchy point of view or a whatever. So when you are truly authentic in like, hey, we are just here to help support each other and connect in a much different way, you will stand out, I think, in that way.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have a journal that I've created. It's called a Boldology Journal. And to me, being bold is all about just being you. It's not about being in your face or loud or any of those things. It's about learning who you are and engaging with that person. And the Boldology Journal just kind of gets you in that habit of getting to know yourself, like every day. Why do I feel this way? What am I going through? Like all these different things. And so I love it. It's this little simple guide that gets you there to that being, to where you are boldly yourself. And it was something that I realized I had done for years and years of just asking myself these questions. And then it was like, hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like going back and reading my journals, especially when we started doing the podcast, I was like, I've been doing this same thing for 25 years or something like that, which seems nuts to me because I'm only 25 years old. Just kidding. Getting close to 40, which is weird. But I'm like, how have I been doing this that long? But it really is like this thing that I've done for years. And now it's a simple way to be able to create that habit of connecting with ourselves on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I teach my clients is like to ask themselves, like, what is my body feeling every day? And it's the same thing that you're doing, but it's just like the same question, right? Like we can get to know ourselves in so many different aspects, whether it's the actual way our body's showing up, the amount of energy we have, how it's feeling, the aches and the pains and the things that we're feeling there, to how did this food make me feel, to what am I feeling about the action that I took yesterday, or how I engaged in this relationship, or all of those different pieces. And I think it's just like, I think that's where you and I blend together, where our messages blend. It's like, how do we just own us and like know who we are and live in alignment with that, rather than living in alignment with the projections of what everybody else on the internet might tell you.
Yeah, it's that shooting on ourselves, right?
Oh yeah.
I love that term.
I know. I don't know who did that, but they totally should have trademarked it.
They should have. It's a good one. I said that when I was talking to a bunch of teens this weekend. I was presenting to them and I said, I want you to stop shooting on yourself. And they were like, what? Yeah, you heard me right.
Yes, I did just say that. Yeah. And it like captures your attention to when you say that, like the way. Yeah. So, okay. I know we're kind of getting close to the end of our episode here. What do you feel like we've left out, or do you feel like we've left anything out yet?
I want people to understand and see this, that as you get to know yourself, as you embrace who you are, you're honestly going to start protecting yourself more and putting more boundaries in place. And we use boundaries as a way to, sometimes we view those as a way to push people away. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. Boundaries are about welcoming people in and bringing them into our life in a way that feels real and connective to us and to them. because we're laying out clear expectations of what the relationship will look like. And they change and they develop and they morph. And so when you get to know yourself, it is very important you put those boundaries in place. We talked about some of my boundaries. I don't read the comments. I mean, I read some, obviously, but there's a point where I'm like, you know what? This is not serving me. I'm done.
Yeah.
Put those boundaries in place so that you can show up as your real self. And the more you put boundaries in place, the more you show up as yourself, I promise you, the people who are looking for you will gravitate to you. It just happens. And it's amazing to watch because you are safe being yourself and therefore they feel safe being themselves. And so they want more of that. We crave connecting with ourselves, but we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So just embrace who you are fully.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of just like craving to be with yourself, right? Like craving to know who you are and just standing in that. And I think that that's just a beautiful picture of what you do, right? Like just owning who you are and being that example and showing people that it's okay to like be messy essentially, or be like show up however, like it doesn't have to be perfect or exactly how you should have been doing or what other people's expectations are. It really can be just how you are.
Yeah. And I would add to that, I do show up messy. I own when I've made mistakes, or I own when, I've let go of myself or self-care or whatever. And I'm like, I'm a mess. I'm going to lay here for a few days or a day and figure this out. And then I will be back. It's just part of the process. Like that's a never ending process. We constantly have to check in with ourselves. So it's okay to be real about all that stuff. Own it. People love it that you own who you are.
Yeah. Well, and I think even too, like I've grown to actually pull away from the people that only show the perfect kind of put together thing all of the time. And I was talking to a coach of mine recently and she was asking, she's like, well, what are the core things that you want people to walk away from? Because I had said, she's like, I keep hearing you say, you don't want to be polished. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be polished. Like, I don't want to be put together. I want somebody to see me as the person that I am and not just this polished package put together on the internet. And she was like, well, what are those other core words? And the first one that came to mind was like real. Like, I want to be that real person. And I think that this is the conversations that people need. Like they need to know that they can unapologetically step into that realness and not worry about any of the naysayers.
Yeah, we're craving it. As a community, as a society, we're craving to know it's actually real.
Yeah.
And people feel it when it is real.
So much so. Oh my goodness, Jessica, we could probably keep talking and chit-chatting, especially because I know we've kind of followed each other forever and that we probably could just like go all in, but we will keep it short for everybody so they can go find you and follow you and get more on your story. Maybe share good messages in your comments or send you a DM or something of that nature so they can connect with you there. So where would be the best place that they could do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on my podcast, Husband-in-Law. We're on any podcasting platform. It's a little bit different setup than most podcasts. You'll want to start with episode 1. And then we are also on Instagram. Those are the 2 places I'm the most active. And I'm Husband-in-Law on Instagram as well to keep it easy. So
awesome. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on. I know that this was an amazing episode, and I do highly encourage you guys, if you have not listened or heard Jessica and her family share their story, that you should go check it out and just follow along and see all of that journey and that process, because I have seen a massive change and shift in you guys over the last couple of years. So definitely worth checking out. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.